Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Divyam Gandhi and today we are going to talk about some life-changing philosophies. I am so excited about today's video and I am so passionate about this topic because I have been actively working on myself since 2020, and yes, I have developed a lot of habits, a lot of routines, and I have worked on myself in a lot of areas, but nothing changes if your mindset doesn't change. And this video is all about mindset. Everything that I have done in the past 2 years, the books that I've read, the podcast I've heard, the videos I have watched, the experimentation I have done, I have picked up a few philosophies throughout that time. And these philosophies aren't just the one that I just randomly read and I'm talking to you about it. These are the ones that I actively have adapted into my life, and they have changed it. They have changed my life so much. They have impacted my life so much, and I am so excited to share it with you today. But this is a topic that I like. I love to talk about these kind of things. So I knew that once I start talking, I am going to ramble on, and I wanted to talk about each of them like in detail. So to make sure that this video is not too long, I am going to do this in two parts. This is part one, and let's get started. So the first philosophy that I want to talk to you about is how you do one thing is how you do everything. I was struggling with willpower last year, and I was not able to complete anything, and I was not able to get through. Like, I used to start things and I couldn't finish them, even if it was a 3-day thing or a 5-day thing or a 1 month thing, it didn't matter. And I was really struggling with willpower, so I was researching on it, and this was the first time that I came across this concept. I was watching a video, and this guy was talking about how you're supposed to finish everything that you start. And he talked about this in like very tiny context, like in every tiny thing in your life. Like if you are drinking a glass of water, then keeping it in the sink or washing it at the same time is how you finish the task. Like basically you wrap every task up in a bow. And that was the first time I got a hint of this philosophy. And for the next 1 or 2 months, I just kept coming across this philosophy everywhere. Whether it was a video I was watching, whether it was a book I was reading, everywhere in one form or the other, I just kept coming across this. And it sort of started like ingraining into me that, okay, how I do one thing is going to affect every other thing that I do. Because it's about who you are, it's about your identity. How you do one certain task can be very well be an indicator of how you will do a big task. If you do the tiniest tasks in your life with utmost dedication, that is going to manifest into the bigger tasks of your life. So initially, I adapted this in the form of perfectionism. I tried to do every single thing perfectly. Every single thing that I did, I just tried to do it perfectly. And let's face it, that turned out to be really counterproductive because it's exhausting trying to be perfect in everything. And plus, over the course of time, I learned more about perfectionism and how it is a defense mechanism against your fear of failure. So, but that's a whole another video for some other time. But slowly, when I started letting go of perfectionism, I started adapting this in the way that every single thing that I did, I tried to do it the best I could. Every single thing. If I'm reading something, even if I'm cleaning something, even when I'm eating my food or I'm drinking my water, I just try to do it the best I could. It wasn't a sudden change and it wasn't a very drastic change, but slowly I started seeing the difference. I used to do this whenever I could remember it, because obviously you can't always remember that you've decided to do something, in every part of your life. It's a habit that you develop over time because you have been habitual of not doing things a certain way for so long. So whenever I could remember that, oh, I'm trying this, I used to do the current task that I was doing the best I could. And slowly I started seeing the difference in my life. And now it has come to a point where I don't feel good if I don't do something with full dedication. Like if I ever rush through a task in a way that it's not done properly, or I am not doing it to the best of my ability, I don't feel good about that task. I don't feel satisfied with it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I need to know that I did it the best of my ability. And honestly, this is transforming my life so much, because the small things that I do in every day of my life using this philosophy, this has started manifesting into my work. This has started showing up in my work ethic and in other parts of my life, or when I'm having conversations with people, I try to be fully present. It's just the tiny differences, and those are so subtle that I can't even like pick out and point it out. But I see why people say this, that how you do one thing is how you do everything. Because how you show up for one thing is how you're going to show up for everything else in your life. The second philosophy that I want to talk to you about is say only what you mean. I know people say this all the time, but it first hit me when I was listening to Lily Singh's book, How to Be a Boss, and she had a whole chapter about this. She gave this example where how sometimes you run into people you know on the street or in a restaurant or in a mall or somewhere, and you catch up, and while saying goodbye you're like, yes, let's plan something, and yes, let's meet this time, or let's go for lunch. And you both know that you're not going to do this. You both know you're just saying it just to say it. You both don't have time and you're not going to go through with it. So why say it? Just to be nice? I mean, I get that, but that's not the only way to be nice. You can easily say that it was great catching up with you and I really hope to run into you sometime again. It's something that you mean. And when you say something that you mean, it comes off as natural, it comes off as authentic, and it comes off as self-assured. This is such an important thing. It makes you feel confident about yourself. It makes you feel more self-assured about yourself. You start understanding what you stand for. You start knowing yourself better. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, I recently put up a post explaining the foundation of my brand and what my brand stands for. And the foundation of it is embracing who you are, being your true self, being your authentic self. And when you say things that you don't mean, whether it's an elaborate lie or just something that slips out because you're in a habit to do so, it makes you go even farther away from yourself. And I know this won't sound like a very big thing, like how does it matter if I say something to somebody, they will never know that I don't mean it. Yes, they might not know, but you will. And this is about you. This is about how you can be a person that you respect more, that you like more, a better version of yourself. And trust me, it is so like you get such a rush of confidence when you're not just being a people pleaser and you're not just agreeing with people for the sake of agreeing. I mean, if you are in a group of people and they are discussing about a topic that you have no idea about, whether it's a political issue or socioeconomic issue or any other random topic that you have no knowledge about, a lot of times I have seen people, and honestly, I used to do this too. I used to pretend that yeah, I know, and you say that yeah, this is right and whatever. Like you try to give an opinion even if you don't have any clue as to what it is about. And with time, I learned to say this. If I'm asked for an opinion on something that I have no knowledge about, I say this, that I don't have enough knowledge to give an opinion about this, but I will let you know if I do. And it is empowering because it doesn't put you in an embarrassed position. It gives you a sense of self that yes, this is who I am, and it's okay. It's not important to know about everything, and it's not important to agree with people all the time. There are going to be things that people are going to do that you're just not going to like, and it's okay to voice that opinion. Just do that in a respectful way, in a kind way, but be true to who you are. Don't say things that you don't mean. Trust me, this gives such an amazing boost to your self-confidence, and you are going to feel great about yourself when you start saying only the things that you mean. The third philosophy that I want to talk to you about is something that we have heard since we were kids. We have all heard Thomas Edison's story of how he created the bulb and how he failed so many times, and his quote where he says that I didn't fail so many number of times, I just figured out these number of ways of how not to make a bulb. And I had heard it too, but it never really sunk in. It never really made an impact. But I came across this quote, and the moment I read it, something in me just clicked. Like, it was the moment when, like, you see in movies where hear stuff and everything starts making sense to you. And that is the kind of thing that happened to me when I read this quote. So the quote is, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? And the moment I read this, something in me flipped. Some switch in my brain just went off. Reading this quote just broke the chains of fear in my head. It opened up so many possibilities in front of me, because the quote was, if you couldn't fail, what would you try? And I realized that the reason that we don't try most of the things is because we are afraid to fail. But if failure wasn't a concept anymore, it would be wonderful to see what people would do with their life, what people would give it a shot to. And it would be so beautiful and so magical. There is this monologue by Henry Ford, and I'm going to read it out to you. It says, you must never, even for a second, let yourself think that you can fail. Our first principle is that failure is impossible. You may not get what you're trying to do right the first time, or the second time, or the 10th time, or the 100th time. But if you shut out of your mind the possibility of being licked, then you're bound to win. And that's what this philosophy is all about. I mean, when things don't work out a certain way, when things don't work out the way that we were trying to do, we label it as failure. We are the one who label it as failure. We are the one who choose to accept that that is the outcome of what we are trying to do. If we deny to accept that that is the final outcome, we are going to keep trying. So failure won't exist, because we didn't fail. One way didn't work out, so we are trying it a different way. And that's what I have learned. You need to be stubborn with your destination. You need to be stubborn with your vision of where you're trying to go, of where you want to reach. But you need to be flexible with your ways. You need to be flexible with how you're going to get there. Because one way might not work, another way might not work. That doesn't mean that your vision is not something that you can achieve. It doesn't mean that you have failed at achieving your destination. It just means that you have to try some other ways to reach there. So you have to recognize that failure is a concept only in your head. It is not real. And once you recognize that fact, you will realize that the fear attached to that situation disappears. The fear that is making you act out of desperation, that is making you do things that you do out of desperation and not out of security and not out of happiness and peace, that factor of desperation disappears. And you start approaching the situation with a fresh mindset, a mindset full of possibilities. So if you understand that failure is just a concept in your head, as long as you're trying, you are not failing. As long as you are willing to find another way to make things work in your favor, failure is non-existent. And this is something that has changed my mindset so much, because I decided to not go for a job after my college. And I had this vision of what I wanted to do in my life, and I was trying to figure things out. And all this while, I was afraid that what if it doesn't work out? What if I'm just dreaming? What if this is all just a big, elaborate fantasy of mine? But when I read this quote, it just made me realize that I won't fail, because I will choose not to. Even if things don't work out the way they are in my head right now, they will work out in some other way. My vision is going to manifest in some other way. And it was such a blessing to come across this quote. It seriously opened up so many possibilities in my head. My mindset opened up, and the feeling of desperation that I had to make things work and the feelings of fear just started disappearing from my life. And it has been amazing. So this is just a fresh perspective on the failure philosophy that we have been taught all our life. So these are a few of the life-changing philosophies that I have adapted into my life that are changing my life for the better. And I have a few more that I'm going to talk about in part 2 of this video. For now, I really hope you like this video. If you have any suggestions for me, please comment them down below. And if you like this kind of content and if you would like to see more of it about upleveling your life and becoming a better version of yourself, please subscribe to my channel. I will see you in part 2 of this video. Bye.